Greetings and salutations, loyal viewers of this channel. Today I want to talk about trends that we're seeing with retail stores, grocery stores, and that major trend, this new development, is the removal of those self-checkout lanes. Yes, that thing that somebody is always ahead of you struggling with because they don't understand that you scan the item, then you put it on the scale, then you wait to scan the new item, is going to be removed from your stores. And while you might celebrate a little bit, and while you might think we're bringing back cashiers and cheer for jubilation, in reality, this is actually indicative of crime that is going on, and the greatest beneficiary of this particular policy, of this change, is not going to be the cashiers that are going to be suddenly re-employed. It's actually going to be Amazon. Now, we're going to get into this, but before we do, I want to thank everybody who signed up over on actualjusticewarrior.com/join.
Give me the money. Give me the money. Okay.
Walmart at Steelyard Commons is removing its self-checkout kiosks. The retailer says that decision was made because of store shopping patterns and does not specify if it's related to crime.
Now listen. I am somebody who is a supporter of the local news. In fact, I have become reliant on them to give me a jumping off point for stories as I produce more videos for you guys out there in the audience. But come on, guy. Are you serious right now? You're saying that Walmart is removing the self-checkouts. We know, by the way, from other locations, from other businesses, it's due to theft. They cite changes in shopping patterns, and then you're like, we don't know if that's related to crime. Look, I'm not saying that I'm going to put on the detective suit in this particular video. I'm going to save it for some special occasions, but I shouldn't even need to put on the detective suit for people to understand that obviously, and I mean obviously, the changes in shopping patterns or the shopping pattern disruption, whatever code word Walmart wants to use, means theft. It means that they're stealing things. Things are being stolen through the self-checkout, and honestly, I'm not surprised because it's incredibly easy to do so.
Self-checkouts will no longer be available at Walmart in Steelyard Commons. Walmart spokesperson Charles Croson said starting Sunday, Walmart will begin removing all self-checkout lanes, shifting to all associate staff checkouts.
Now, even though I'm highlighting this particular story from a couple of weeks ago about Walmart removing it in this specific location, I want to point out that I could have gone back over a year and found different segment after different segment of this actually occurring. This is just one of the most recent ones for jumping off point. Also, I do want to point out to everybody in the audience that no matter what you're going to argue on local news or what you're going to try to portray, you can always find some human being to take whatever position. And a perfect example of this is the interview that they're going to do with this shopper, which is described in this manner.
Walmart will begin removing all self-checkout lanes, shifting to all associate staff checkouts. This frightens shopper Leah Birchnell, who says she likes to get in and out of that Walmart as fast as possible.
Look, I understand if this annoyed shopper, Leah Burnell, or whatever her name is, but frightened? She's scared that there is no self-checkout. Maybe because she's one of these people that's actually stealing through the self-checkout system. Again, allegedly, I'm just making that up. I'm not making that allegation. But it is kind of weird that she said she was frightened. Like, this scares her. Now, maybe this Walmart is in a very sketchy area and you want to be in and out as quick as possible because, crime be going down at this particular Walmart. But I never thought I would be frightened because of a self-checkout being removed. I might be annoyed that I have to go to a regular ordinary lane because I actually know how to work these self-checkout robot machines. We're actually on good terms as of right now. But frightened I don't know. I just found that to be so odd. And I know this is like distracting from the rest of the story. We're going to get into the numbers and how these self-checkout things are actually a disaster in terms of theft and how the problem has gotten worse. But frightened?
I'll probably end up going to a different Walmart then because I don't like to have to wait down here, especially with all the crime that's been going down here. It's very scary. It really is.
Okay, that makes more sense. Maybe I should have listened to what she said earlier on, that she doesn't want to linger in this particular Walmart because there's crime in this particular Walmart. But it turns out a lot of this crime is being committed or commissioned in relation to self-checkout scams. Now, for those of you who are completely unaware of how these scams work, I will point out that this is for educational purposes only. Let's say you're going to the grocery store that's by my house and you want to buy heavy cream because you like it in your coffee, but it's really expensive. It's like $8.99 for heavy cream. But what you realize is that said heavy cream is in a 1 pint or 1 quart kind of little cardboard triangle box, and that is actually the same size and the same weight as half and half, which is like $2.50. Well, theoretically, metaphorically, and hypothetically, if you didn't want to pay for said heavy cream and you were a YouTuber over on the actualjusticewarrior.com, but you didn't have ethics like I have ethics, you could scan that half and half, set it aside, and put the item that weighs the exact same amount into the robot checkout, the self-checkout, and the robot is just not smart enough to realize what you just did. And that's like the best sale ever. It's like 75% off at the local grocery store right next to me. Just in theory.
In a statement, Croson said the change was driven by Walmart's commitment to improve the in-store experience, and the decision was made by customer and associate feedback, including research related to store shopping patterns and business needs within the market.
Look, I'm going to have to call BS on all of that if I'm going to be perfectly honest, because there are only two reasons why Walmart would make this change. First and foremost, it would be due to theft, because the cost of labor that you're saving by not hiring a cashier is being offset by such an increase in theft that the technology is no longer saving the money. Remember, Walmart is trying to cut labor costs at all costs. This is something that they're known for. They have a reputation for this. This reputation goes back decades. So that is reason number one. Reason number two, if this is slowing the checkout process to the point where it's way less efficient in that regard, again, another money issue than the self-checkout, that they're not even able to reduce their number of employees in the way that they want, that's the other reason that they would cut it. In no way, shape, or form is Walmart trying to improve your customer experience, spending more money on their employees if this is a more efficient, theft-proof way, or at least has tolerable levels of theft. You just heard this woman who was scared of the robots fleeing talk about the increase in crime in this particular location. And by the way, these self-checkouts are being pulled out all over the country.
Another shopper, Corey Sheneman, isn't confident removing self-checkout will improve his future experiences.
Last week we were standing in the doorway as some guy was getting tased for stealing a jacket and had his pockets fully loaded with everything he could grab. I was like, oh.
For instance, in March of this year, Dollar General, another place that is trying to give you products as cheap as possible, trying to cut the cost of labor. By the way, there is a labor crunch in this country that is boosting up the wages of these cashiers. Everybody's getting a pay increase because of inflation and because of the labor crunch. But they're also talking about removing these self-checkouts from their stores nationwide. And they cite frustrations with the technology and an increase in theft as the justification. Now, for Dollar General in particular, their plan as of right now is to pull the self-checkout. You know this is a major problem when they're getting rid of these things from 300 locations, but then in 9,000 other locations, they want to have the clerks run the self-checkout thing, thus making it a regular clerk thing. Now, we're also seeing some changes in how these are implemented from Target. And to be fair to the Target change, they're kind of trying to change it back to what the original intention of this technology was, which is they're limiting it to 10 items or less because these are becoming hotspots for theft. Now, the idea behind these in the first place was that you were going to limit it to small purchases or small number of item purchases so you don't have those people bogged down on the line, to make the shopping experience more convenient for them. And again, this is not to make it more enjoyable for them. This is for the purpose of getting these people in the store. And by the way, I think the removal of these self-checkouts at all these different various locations are going to have the effect of pushing people to ordering more stuff on Amazon. The fact of the matter is, you are not going to get mugged, or at least it's not very likely, picking up a package from Amazon in front of your house. You're not going to have to wait in line behind a bunch of other people when you want something because they got rid of these self-checkouts and your 2 items are taking far too long to be scanned by the person behind the counter. So what I think are the consequences of this is the fact that you're going to end up with more people doing online shopping, and a lot of these retailers that are already struggling, that are already having to deal with the problems of increased theft, just face another problem. And by the way, I've actually seen this myself. When I was doing Tim's show recently, I stopped by a Dollar General in order to buy some stuff, and now that I think about it, there was a self-checkout there, and that self-checkout was being run by the employees there. And this is a nationwide policy. I don't imagine that in that like West Virginia Appalachian area, they have high instances of theft that would prompt this, but it's just becoming that much of a problem, both in terms of the inconvenience factor and in terms of the theft, that these companies have to do it. And if you think about it, going through the self-checkout, you don't even have to come up with this elaborate heavy cream versus half and half scheme that I totally have never engaged in my entire life. Sometimes you could just store something in the bottom of your cart. Like, let's say, you know, you're going with your friend and he wanted a microwave to get for his family. And I'm just kidding about this.
Case Western University professor Michael Goldberg says many retail stores are suffering from shrinkage. It's a term used when a store has fewer items in stock than it's supposed to, whether items were stolen, damaged, or expired. The National Retail Association says shrinkage in 2022 represented $112 billion in losses. He thinks Walmart's self-checkout removal is an attempt to try and save money.
So some of the retailers, while they were originally enthusiastic about benefiting from the lower labor costs that would take place with not having to hire folks to check folks out, are now recalculating, you know, sort of at that checkout line, that it makes sense to pay for that cashier to make sure that what is going in folks' grocery bags is things that they're paying for.
Like, I remember initially one of the things that people were pointing out, highlighting, warning about was the fact that they would weigh or actually say that they're buying bananas or some kind of cheap produce. Then they would weigh their item and pass the transaction off as bananas. But when you actually read through this particular article on all the different various flaws in self-checkout, the main one is that you don't really notice whether or not people scan anything or not. And unless you're in a major retail place that has a membership that checks the receipts at the door, and by the way, even those guys don't do a very good job, there's almost no opportunity to catch people in terms of theft.
Some grocers are actually encouraging self-checkout. Meyer Fairfax Market here on 105th Street, that is actually the only way you can purchase your groceries. And some shoppers say they love it.
They guide you right to the registers, and you know, somebody's always walking around to help you out, and it goes very smoothly.
Goldberg thinks self-checkout eliminations will be done on a store-by-store basis. It's still costly for stores to hire cashiers. As the Department of Labor found in 2019, there were 1.4 million people working as cashiers. That number is now down to 1.2 million.
Now again, a lot of people might be happy with this. They might say, hey, the return to the cashiers, even though those employee costs are going to be passed on to the consumers and you're already paying high prices for your grocery stores and all that. But the thing is, as we've talked about on this channel multiple times, these thieves are doing it in some convenient ways, like through the self-checkout or whatever. But in places that don't have self-checkout, what we find out is that they're willing to just grab stuff and try to blitz the door, and they're willing to fight and sometimes kill people in order to get their way out with the stuff that they want. So we might end up in a situation where we have more cashiers employed in more of these places, but the lines are slower, which is going to drive down the customer base, drive people more towards Amazon, and the thieves aren't going anywhere. They're not going to stop thieving, so we're going to probably end up with more altercations between staff and between said thieves. And the thing is, this has to be the inevitable consequence of this, because if you're getting rid of the self-checkouts because of an uptick in theft, and then the employees never engage with these people, thus the theft remains unchanged, then there's no benefit of that. So what we're going to end up with is stores closing, which we also see nationwide. We got a bunch of different cities that just have theft out of control, that are losing all their grocery stores, neighborhoods in particular, and all of that. And then you're going to have additional confrontations, which are going to lead to employees getting fired for defending their business, which is absolutely horrible, people getting injured, and people getting killed, because the root of this situation is the fact that we're not prosecuting theft in a lot of these places across the country. Until you actually address it, until you actually take it seriously, and by the way, the numbers have shown us over and over again, when you look at a place like New York City, or San Francisco, Los Angeles, or any city, even the ones that are not the most popular ones named by me on this channel, these are the repeat offenders that are constantly re-engaging in this. But you know what? These are just my thoughts related to this whole situation. I want to know what you guys think down in the comments below. Is the fact that we might get a return of some cashiers to these stores, that short-term gain, worth it for you? Or do you think that this is going to lead to the long-term consequences of fewer people being employed because more stores are going to close because these were a cost-efficient way before the theft, and this still doesn't address the theft? Or maybe, just maybe, you're scared like that person who was interviewed that the robot is gone because the robot brings you comfort. Or maybe, just maybe, do you think that this is completely unrelated to theft and it's actually due to shopping patterns, whatever that means, and Walmart really loving you so hard that they want to change the customer experience even if it costs them money for you to enjoy it better? Again, all your thoughts down in the comments below. If you like the video, show them by leaving a like, subscribe for more content, follow me on the social medias, support me via the support links in the description of this video. This has been me talking about what's going down with this whole situation. Till next time.